Hi guys, James again, back with another video, and this is another top 10 TV show, top 10 episodes of a TV show I love video. And this one took a while to do, not because it was tough whittling down the 10 episodes I wanted to do, but also, if you clicked on this, you know it's my top 10 favorite Westworld episodes, top 10 best Westworld episodes. But I decided that I wanted to go through the series again. Didn't have to, I wanted to, for the third or fourth time, the entire thing. And because I was already starting to watch it, you know what? Figured I'm just gonna finish the 3 seasons again. And so the episodes that I love for this list are fresher in my mind. Because I know that in the past on Lost or Walking Dead, I got a little fuzzy on the details or described the wrong episode entirely. Anyway. And it also refreshed my memory on a lot of season 3 episodes that may or may not have made this list had I made it prior to rewatching the series again. Anyway, as before, I just threw it up there because I didn't think about it at the time. I am going to be spoiling all these episodes, so spoiler. So if you proceed, just be warned, I'm spoiling the episodes. Either stop and watch the series up to this point, or watch them and maybe it'll prompt you to go back and watch the series again and again and again, like I do. Anyway, without further ado, we will start with number 10. Number 10 is an episode called Trompe L'Oeil. I think it's French. It's season 1, episode 7. And this one is the episode where it's over halfway through the first season. This is the episode where Bernard discovers, or rather the viewers, and I guess more importantly, the character of Teresa discover that Bernard is in fact a host. And it happens when Bernard takes Teresa, they're trying to figure out what's going on and find out that there's unregistered hosts out in a location that Bernard has already been to, saying Dr. Ford had his own hosts out in this cabin in the woods, pretty much, for lack of a better word. So he was taking her out there to check it out, and the house is all dark and stuff. And she discovers that there's a door, and she asks Bernard, "Where's this door go?" And he goes, "What door?" And he's like, "Doesn't look like anything to me," which is a clue that the hosts are looking at something that they shouldn't be. And most of their, like when Dolores looks at the photo of the young William's wife, she's like, "It doesn't look like anything to me." So, and it was a startling moment in the first season, finding out that one of your main characters is a host who had been working on and with the host. And then even more shocking is they get downstairs, Teresa discovers, she finds blueprints, discovers that Bernard's a host, and then Robert shows up saying, I built all of this. You really think I was going to let you take it away from me?" And just, if it isn't a big enough shock that Teresa finds out that Bernard's a host, Dr. Ford has Bernard kill Teresa, who he had a physical romantic relationship with. So it was a pretty shocking episode. So that was Trompe L'Oeil, season 1, episode 7. Okay, number 9, we have an episode called The Mother of Exiles, and this is season 3, episode 4. Now this one, it ends up with, let me see. This was the first episode in season 3 where you get to see where William is at this point. Because at the end of season 2, not the flash forward post-credit scene, but the end of season 2, William is rescued. Well, you find out that they found a high value guest, and it was William, the Man in Black, and he had been injured, as he was pretty badly injured at the end of season 2. Now, you don't know what happened between the end of season 2 and the flash forward, but not what I'm talking about here. Season 3 takes place almost entirely in the real world, and William is not in good shape. He's still hallucinating his dead daughter. He's not having he's having hallucinations, so he's in rough shape since leaving the park. And Charlotte, who is actually one of Dolores's copies, her ulterior motives is to make him appear to be insane, prove that he's insane, and get him locked up, which she does succeed in doing at the end of the episode. But not before letting him know that Charlotte is actually dead, and the Charlotte that has been talking to is actually Dolores, one of Dolores's copies. And then she has him committed to an asylum, and the episode ends with William sitting in his cell talking to Dolores. Well, hallucinating that he's talking to Dolores, and her saying, welcome to the end of the game. Now, I mentioned Charlotte reveals that she's a copy of Dolores. That is, prior to the end of this episode, that is the big reveal of this episode also. In that different locations, Charlotte reveals herself as a copy of Dolores to William. I can never remember his name, but he's played by Tommy Flanagan. Basically, the rich kid's bodyguard reveals to Bernard that he is a copy of Dolores. And Musashi, the Japanese actor from Lost and The Last Samurai, Hiroyuki Sanada, reveals to Maeve that he's not actually Musashi, he is a copy of Dolores. So 3 different people find out at roughly the same time, that Dolores has copied herself. And then it ends up with William getting locked up. But that's why I found that episode so fascinating, because you wonder who are all these. You wondered since the end of season 2, what pearls, what control units did Charlotte escape with, and you find out that it was Bernard and 4 copies of herself. So that was the Mother of Exiles, season 3, episode 4. Now, number 8. Number 8, we have an episode called Past Pawn. And this is season 3, episode 7. Now, this is the second last episode of the season, because season 3 only had 8 episodes, as opposed to the 10-episode first and second seasons. And this is where Dolores and Caleb played by Aaron Paul, she takes him to the facility where not only houses Solomon, the previous version of Rehoboam, the AI that's basically controlling the world, and the facility where all the outliers, all the people that couldn't be controlled by Rehoboam, were removed from society and kept in that facility so that the world would run smoothly. And Caleb was a former patient that had been held there and then rehabilitated, kind of had his mind reset, and then sent back out into the world. And he finds out what happened to him, and that he had been put there and then reconditioned, rehabilitated, reprogrammed essentially, and sent back out into the world. But it also has a major confrontation between Maeve and Dolores, which is pretty awesome. And was there another? No. It's largely about Caleb's backstory, and that's why Dolores took him there, but also to get a plan to take down Rehoboam from Solomon. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's essentially what that episode was about, and it just leads to the big confrontations that happen in the season 3 finale. Excuse me, that was passed upon season 3, episode 7. All right. Number 7, we have an episode called Dissonance Theory, and this is season 1, episode 4. And this, number of things happen in this episode, but the reason why I like this episode so much is Teresa she wants to talk to Ford, maybe asking him to step down or resign or whatever, and Ford's in the middle of building his new narrative, like clearing locations and renovating the landscape and stuff like that. And she wants to talk to him, and he sort of turns it around on her. He knows all about her, as he says as much to her. They sit in a restaurant in a particular table. She sits in a particular chair and wonders if I came here as a kid, and I wonder if this is the same table I sat at in the same chair. And it turns out it was, because Ford says, we know all about all the hosts in the park, as well as our guests and employees. So he knew exactly where to put her. And she was saying, like, the board is going to side with me. They're going to send a representative. And he's like, well, didn't you know they already have sent a representative? I thought they would have told you. And he talks about his partner Arnold and stuff, but the gist of it was saying, like, please be gentle with Bernard, because he knows they're having a relationship. And the part of the scene that I always keep rewinding and rewatching over and over again is where he says, like, many of you people have come in here to try to test me every once in a while, and we've almost always been able to get along. He goes, so I will say this once very nicely, please don't get in my way. Which, as you know from the number 10 on this list, she gets in his way and pays the ultimate price. But it's just the conversation, because you see them sitting at the table, and the waiter comes over to start pouring the wine, and all of a sudden the cup is full and overflowing, and you realize that, well, of course, Ford can control everything with his gestures and stuff. And you see the shot under the table, and he's got his finger up like that. he's just hands are under the table. He's got the finger up because he has stopped the guy from moving. And all of a sudden he, like, puts his hand down, and the guy's like, oh, sorry, and realizes. And she looks around, and, like, everyone has stopped moving. And I just thought it was an awesome, awesome scene. And it's a great episode anyway, but it was an awesome scene that puts it on this list. So, Dissonance Theory, season 1, episode 4. So, number 6, we have an episode called Contra Paso, and this is season 1, episode 5. And this one is... this one has two things. You get young William and Logan, who, because of an adventure William wanted to go on, William and Logan discover what Logan called an Easter egg. One guy, Slim, who took them to Pariah, one of the outlying sort of like Spanish towns, and they were to meet up with El Lasso, who you find out is Lawrence. Well, it was Lawrence in the present time. El Lasso in the previous timeline, as you know, in season 1, you find out that there's two parallel timelines going on that are separated by, like, I don't know, it's like decades. Anyway. So, it's Dolores, Logan, and William meeting El Lazo and spending the night in Pariah, where there's, like, orgies going on and music and dancing and partying and drinking, and they're also going to be making a deal with the Confederados, I think it's Confederate Army deserters or want to take all this nitroglycerin and blow up. It's basically the war effort that's going on in one section of the park. But at the same time, you've got William, older William, Man in Black William, who's traveling with Teddy. And they end up in a bar, and you see them sit down on the table, and the piano player, who you can't really tell, gets up, grabs a bottle and a few glasses, and sits down. It turns out to be Robert, Dr. Ford. And this was the first time that William, Man in Black, and Ford were face to face in this season. And I always say, like, in season 1 and 2, every episode that has the Man in Black, or at least in season 1, every episode that had the Man in Black, had Ed Harris and Anthony Hopkins, was just pure gold. And having them in the same scene, their first confrontation, was just amazing. And this was basically, it was a confrontation, but it also proved that, like, Ford was protected, as, like, Ed Harris, the Man in Black, pulls out a knife as if to threaten Dr. Ford, and Teddy just reaches over, grabs it, and stabs it into the table. Like, oh wow, it's like, you're not gonna get to him that way. Anyway, it wasn't exactly what he planned, but it proved a point. Anyway, so that was number 6. Contra Paso, Season 1, Episode 5. Now, number 5, we have an episode called Crisis Theory. And this is Season 3, Episode 8. And this is the Season 3 finale. And this just has a bunch of stuff going on. You've got Dolores. Dolores gets captured by Maeve and taken on Charlotte and taken to basically Insight, the headquarters where Rehoboam exists, and you have, like, Sirach, who's in charge. And they hook Dolores up to Rehoboam, and they're basically deleting all her memories. And you have Caleb trying to assault the building, get inside to save Dolores and to take down Rehoboam with this drive he got from Solomon. Everyone's path in life has been laid bare by Dolores, where she basically, because Rehoboam had mapped out everyone in the world's lives, and she sent it to everyone. So, in the town that they're in, it's mass chaos, but it's probably mass chaos. They show a map, mass chaos all over the world. And while they're in there, like, you learned the majority of Caleb's backstory in the second last episode of Season 3, but in the final episode, you kind of learn a little bit further and find out Dolores and Caleb's connection. How Dolores actually had met Caleb before in a simulation where the military wanted to practice hostage situations, something in Westworld or somewhere. And Dolores was one of the hostages. And he had his military buddies wanted to basically take advantage or do what they wanted with the women that they saved, and Caleb talked them out of it. And it's like, come on, guys, let's go to bed. And she remembered that, as at the end of Season 1, she had remembered everything. And you've also got the Bernard reunited with Arnold's actual wife, where they talked about Charlie, the son, and Bernard's memories of him and her. And Season 3 also has the two post-credits, the one long post-credit scene where William goes to another lab and discovers Charlotte, who has made a host version of William, who kills William and becomes the new William, I guess, the Man in Black, which explains how William became a host in the post-credit scene of Season 2, Well, this post-credit scene also extends into Bernard, who had realized that the key to the sublime was in his head, and he decided to make contact, and you just see how he like logs in and then shuts down. Well, you see him come back online, and he's covered in dust. The whole motel room is covered in dust. You wonder what happened to Stubbs and how long it's been, but it's been a long time, and hopefully season 4 picks up where that leaves off, because you want to know what he learned from the sublime. So that was the season 3 finale, Crisis Theory. Number 4, we have an episode called The Passenger, and this is the season 2, episode 10, the season 2 finale. And this one is also awesome because in the same way that season 1 ended with you finding out that there's 2 timelines running parallel, not one single timeline, season 2, which you get the sense early on, or at least partway through, that there's 2 timelines that are happening. It was present timeline and the timeline that happened like 2 weeks ago when the park fell, right after the park fell. And you find out by the end of the episode that Bernard, all the scenes with like Dolores proper and Teddy and them happened shortly after the park fell. And then Bernard kills Dolores, and then because of what he knows, he scrambles his memories and passes out on the shore near the water. They find him, and this is a couple weeks later, they find him, another crew comes in, and then it's going over it again with Charlotte, who turns out is Dolores, because Bernard reconstructed her and put her control unit in Charlotte's head after she killed Charlotte. And then you're going through it again, but they kind of splice it so it could be happening at the same time. It's the same basic concept, but different enough that it's equally awesome. And as I said, it ends with basically all the military people, almost all the military people dying, but like Maeve dying, a bunch of the hosts going into the sublime, and then Dolores transfers Teddy's consciousness because he dies in the episode previous, and you just see him smiling out in the field and stuff, which I think is a beautiful shot. And you find out that Charlotte, through at least half of the shots you see of her, was actually Dolores, and the other half was actually Charlotte. You have the post-credit scene with William realizing that several years have gone by and he's a host now. But I always wondered because you see him struggling and stumbling and going into the elevator where Bernard and Dolores already were, him going down, and then Bernard gets on the elevator, which is empty. And in the post-credit scene, William gets down to the bottom, and it's been I don't know how many years, and there's a host version of his daughter, and finds out he's a host. But I wonder what happened the very first time he went down. I wonder if they'll ever show that. I don't know. Anyway, so that was the season 2 finale, The Passenger. All right. Number 3 is an episode called Kiksuya, which I believe it means, I think it's Lakota for remember or memories or something. It is season 2, episode 8. So the, not the second last, but the third to last episode of the season. And this for a while was going to be my number 1 episode. But again, watching the series again and remembering certain elements of season 2, I realized that it wasn't my favorite episode out of all of them. But it is the single most beautiful episode of television I have ever seen. Because this one deals with Akichita, who played by... I can never remember his name. He was Matthias in Longmire. He plays Akichita in Westworld. His name is Zane McLernan. and he's a Native Indian actor, and he's a Ghost Nation Indian host in the show, and you'd seen him a few times before, but this episode was all about him and his backstory and how long he'd been around and his interaction with Ford. You see him interact with Ford in between Arnold dying and Ford dying, and how he discovered the people working beneath, they called the ones below, but like basically the Westworld techs. And what am I thinking of? Basically his relationship with his, at the time, girlfriend or wife, and then she gets taken away and replaced, and he finds out what cold storage is all about in the Westworld basement, and how his lifestyle changes, where he gets reprogrammed to be like a vicious hunter, and then he basically learns the secret of what he becomes self-aware before a lot of the other hosts do. Anyway, it's I wouldn't say a bottle episode. There's not a lot that happens in it, but it's just beautiful, beautiful TV episode. Okay, number 2, we have the season 1 finale. It's the Bicameral Mind, season 1, episode 10. And this is the one where you discover that young William, and the Man in Black are the same person, and their 2 timelines are taking place like 20 years apart. So as I said, you find out that William and the Man in Black are the same person, and that what you've been watching is 2 separate timelines separated by decades. And it also ends with like Dolores killing Ford, which is what he wanted, but he also wanted all of the hosts in the park to be free. And it also makes William, the Man in Black, happy, because after he got had the crap kicked out of him by Dolores, a bunch of the hosts assault the town where all the board members are for their celebration, and he gets shot, and you see a smile on his face, like, oh wow, they can actually fight back. It's what he's always wanted. And it's just the whole season 1. It was just the big reveal about what's been going on the whole season. Anyway, so that was a season 1 finale by Bicameral Mind. All right, number 1 is an episode called Vanishing Point, and this is season 2, episode 9. So this is the second last episode of season 2. And this one jumped ahead once I realized everything that happened in this episode. But I'll be brief. In this one, essentially, it goes back and forth and flashes back to how William, the grown-up Man in Black, his wife, actually died, how she killed herself, and what led up to it. But it also involves talking about William, who is so convinced that his daughter's a host because she found him in the park, that he ends up killing her. Excuse me. Ends up killing her, and going on his own way, nearly killing himself, questioning whether or not he was a host or not. And but you've also got Maeve, who's basically cut open and splayed out by one of the techs, who's basically dissecting her and finding out the special code that's inside her head. Bernard who's got Ford, a file implanted into his brain. Ford basically piggybacking along with Bernard, and gets close enough to Maeve so that Maeve can read a file in Bernard's head. And basically it's Anthony Hopkins, Dr. Robert Ford, in there consoling and talking to Maeve while she's laying on the table helpless. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful monologue he gives about like how he was her favorite, basically her child. No parent wants to see their child dying, stuff like that, and pretty much sets her free, or sets her up so that she can escape. But the episode ends with Teddy realizing and telling Dolores, like, I can't do this anymore. You turned me into a monster, and like, how does this make us any better if we become monsters like the people we're trying to kill, or trying to kill us? And she's like, he pulls out a gun. She's like, you're not going to hurt me, Teddy. He's like, no, I'm not. I'll protect you to the day I die. And he's like, sorry, Dolores, I can't protect you anymore. And he shoots himself in the head. And just the look of shock on Dolores's face, it's sort of like when Michonne realizes after Rick blows up the bridge, and she just like, can't believe it. And like, the regular sound cuts out, and this shrill whine covers over her face, and it's just goes right to the end of the episode. And you're just like, oh my God. And then it cuts to black and stuff. And I think it's just the amount of stuff that happens in this episode puts it at the top. Not much above the other ones, but puts it at the top. So, okay, that is it. I'm going to decide which one I'm doing next after this, but I really wanted to do this and get it done right. So, thank you for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, suggestions, they're all welcome. And I'll talk to you soon. Toodles.